Peace and blessings, and welcome back to Bodybuilding for Brass Players. I am Umbikele G. Scott Jones, and today I have the distinct privilege of interviewing a dear human being, a wonderful person, who also is the Associate Professor of Trombone at the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music, and that is Mr. Timothy Anderson. So I definitely want to welcome you to this series. I'm very, very excited to have you on here. This is our 5th interview in the series. And so thank you for being here and welcome. So, sorry. Let's actually start. What I want to do for the audience is talk about the first time we met. And it was definitely a good decade ago, just about. And I was young and thought I knew something about the trombone and thought I knew how to play really well. And so I was considering pursuing the doctorate in trombone. And I said, okay, let me schedule a lesson at CCM and go from there. And in that lesson, my playing was horrendous. I was all over the place. And one of the things you told me has stuck with me for ever since then, and really helped me to stay motivated, to push me, and it's helped to shape me. So even though I didn't study with you at CCM, that lesson has stuck with me ever since. And so I really appreciate, basically you told me that I was a better singer than trombone player at the time. And yeah, it was a wake up call. And one of the things I've been getting into with this series is being honest with yourself about where you are as a player and doing the work necessary to be successful. So I really appreciate that. And that will get us into these questions here, because one of the things I definitely want to tell the audience is that Tim Anderson is a man of his word. And you're very, very direct about things. At the same time, I don't know if I've met a nicer person. So I definitely appreciate every interaction we've had thus far. So anyway, can you tell us, the audience, a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how you came to love the trombone, artist endorsements, anything like that?
Yeah, great. And thank you for having me, Scott. And I appreciate the kind words. I'm always a little nervous when somebody says, "Do you remember what you said to me?" Because it gives me pause. So I appreciate your support. I'm originally from a little town in South Carolina that's not very far from Myrtle Beach. And I grew up in the middle of a tobacco field. And when I say that, often people chuckle, but I'm not, it's not a joke. I look out my window when I was a kid, and there was tobacco in every direction. And that was some people called that strip that ran from I-95 to Myrtle Beach. They called it Tobacco Alley.
Okay.
But there was nothing there but tobacco when I was a kid. And later on, years later, so happens when Obama was running for president, he referred to that same row of little towns as the corridor of shame. And of course, to this day, they hate him for that. But he was referring to how bad the public schools situations were. There were schools where people in the winter, the kids all wore their coats inside, and there were raw sewage and floors, and it was a very poor area. Okay. It's the second poorest county in the state. And it's not, as you know, it's a poor state. So that's where I'm from. But then I was okay at trombone. I had some things going on there when I was a youngster. When I was a little kid, my parents had these recordings. I would listen to music all the time. And one of them had a little trombone solo in it. And I remember it was Watermelon Man, which now I realize is just a classic tune, but I loved it. And that's why I chose trombone. And I don't know, I enjoyed it. I often say the only reason I played trombone is because I wasn't smart enough to do anything else. But I just kept going. And out of high school, I got accepted to Peabody in Baltimore. And I went and visited. And I realized how far behind I was. I didn't even know how to write out my scales when I was in high school. And so I went to the University of South Carolina. They were very willing to meet me at square one and sort of get you from nowhere to somewhere. Mm-hmm. Which I've learned to realize in education, you have to know what your job is. And sometimes it's take kids from nowhere to somewhere.
Right.
and sometimes it's taken from somewhere to somewhere else. But they were very helpful in that. They had some good faculty there at the time, and they got me ready for graduate school. And actually ended up being more prepared for graduate school than I realized. So then I went to New England for my master's, doing the Conservatory. But it was, so I'm sort of from nowhere. Nowadays, people are, when I was going into graduate school, not undergrad, but when I was going into graduate school, I heard of Curtis Institute.
Mm-hmm.
I was already too old to go to Curtis. I'd never heard of it. Not that I would have or could have, but just to show you where I was on the map. I never heard of Tanglewood Music Festival until I moved to Boston when I was 23. I was just so really far behind and lacked a lot of exposure that nowadays, the world's a lot smaller now with things like this, internet. The world's a lot smaller than it used to be.
Yeah.
So, so I'm, I think of myself as just, I kind of made good out of that environment. Mm-hmm. I got out, got a job.
Yeah. Wow.
Thankful for that.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, I thank you for sharing that, because one of the things I definitely want to do is encourage young people. Well, basically, I want to reach out to young people who are coming from similar situations. I came from, in many ways, a similar situation as far as not being prepared. And it wasn't until I was doing my master's degree that I realized, oh my God, these undergrads, these freshmen are playing circles around me, Mm-hmm. So I appreciate you sharing that. Wow. Now, do you have, are you still an endorsed artist at this time, or?
Yeah, I am. I play a courtois trombone, okay. And they've been very good, very helpful, and good people there. I enjoy their company when I deal with them. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And do you want to talk at all about being principal with the Dayton Philharmonic?
Yeah. Right at the moment, though, during this COVID thing, nobody's playing a lot of anything. But yeah, I've been there 25 years, I think.
Okay.
And it's a regional orchestra, and we do a surprising amount of playing, though. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, for the most part, we're still a nighttime orchestra, which means I can have the two jobs. I can teach it at UC. I can work there at night. They're about an hour apart from each other in drive time, and I live halfway in between. So I can run home, grab dinner, go back and forth, put a lot of miles. But it really keeps me active and playing, and it's fun. And we have a spectacular facility, and the orchestra has grown tremendously since I've been there. So I enjoy that. And I sometimes feel bad, though, that I'm holding down two trombone positions. And so one day when I'm old enough, I will let them go to the next group of people. But but I enjoy it very much. Yeah. I have some good colleagues there too.
Yeah. So how are things going right now at CCM with COVID-19 happening?
I think I don't mean to be critical of the students, but that's the only issue that we've run into is getting students to cooperate sometimes. Okay. But I think UC, or maybe I should say CCM, because I haven't been outside of CCM. Mm-hmm. CCM has done a great job. Okay. Just yesterday, I was talking to my cardiologist, and I was kind of half expecting him to say, you should not be doing any in-person teaching. But he didn't. He said, you're doing everything right. And the school sounds like they're doing everything the best they can. We really limit our contact with one another. Mm-hmm. And I do 2 days. I see every student every other week live and every other week online. Okay. So I try to keep, one of the things they ask is keep the number of people in the building down. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, and then a lot of the classes went online. So all you have is ensembles, which are just doing chamber music, and they're real spread out. But I have noticed that, I was talking to my colleagues yesterday, I think the students are really, maybe it's the dedicated ones, they're really cashing in on this opportunity. Okay. And they're working really hard and practicing. And trombone choir, for example, trombone quartet, brass choir, they seem to now just really relish those other opportunities to get together with one another and play. And because the large ensembles aren't giving them as nearly as much work. And so the workload in that respect is down a little bit. And which we always have said as faculty, we are doing too much with these students. They need more of a break and more time to explore themselves and don't overwork their face. And we just think they're doing really well. And we like the new environment to a certain extent. And the new students that have come in, they are flourishing, and they're like, we're thrilled. We love it here. It's great. So I have no complaints. But particularly as far as the COVID thing, I'm really thankful for the UC and CCM staff. My office is long enough. We can be over 12 feet apart during a lesson. I have the dean put a lot of money in air purification. And purifier between us. I have windows down the side of my office. Whenever they're done, they open the windows and leave the door open for half an hour for the wind to blow through, purifier to continue working. So we have 30-minute break, so nobody's in the room. So just to keep clearing out the air. So it's going pretty well, I think.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah. Are you doing any? Are you doing bell covers at all, or?
Yeah, and surprisingly, the right bell cover doesn't mess up the overtone series.
Okay.
And it keeps the, out of the bell. You know how you see water drip out of the condensation will drip out, and there are little bubble. Aerosolization comes out of a bell of an instrument, but with the cover on the end, it doesn't come out. So it works just fine.
Okay. I might have to ask you after we're done to get to talk a little bit about that some of the time, just to find out what's working, because share what's working. That's great. So do you want to talk a little bit on, you had a heart transplant, was that 2 years ago, a year and a half ago now?
Yeah, 2.5 years ago.
Okay. Do you want to share with the audience, how your recovery has been, any changes you've had to make as far as lifestyle changes, exercise, diet, anything like that? A lot of people ask me afterwards, they want to know if you had some sort of epiphany or, something going through something like that. And I have to say, I always tell them, no, I'm the same asshole I was before. It's just, it's tough living in the headspace. Okay.
When, I was diagnosed over 20 years ago, but the last 2-3 years, I remember when I turned 50, I didn't think I was like, I don't think I'll make 51.
Okay.
But at 52, I had an LVAD, 52. I think that's when I had the LVAD surgery, and I lived on the pump for 18 months. Open heart surgeries are, especially the invasive kind where they rip you open and take things out and stuff. It's a tough headspace to live in for, a period of years, but, boy, they're so good at it now, and so much, and you're waiting on somebody to die so you can have their heart. It's and I know who my donor was. I'm not supposed to know, but there's no way that I could not know, because it was on the news. I mean, it was on Cincinnati news. I did it in Indianapolis, and it was everywhere. There's no way around it. So there's a lot of that, but the only difference I would say afterwards, you don't feel your heart. Like, if you can feel your heart, that's not good. It's like a tooth, if you can feel a tooth, that's not good.
Right.
I don't feel that. The way that it manifests itself in a different way, I feel as if my lung capacity is much smaller.
Okay.
But other than that, that's the only physical difference I can tell. You're supposed to be better on your diet, and I should be exercising more than I am. And but you have to be very careful up front about what you eat. Like, for example, I can never eat sushi again, which is terrible.
Oh, wow.
I can never have eggs over easy.
Okay.
I can never have a steak that's rare.
Wow.
Everything has to be cooked, and vegetables, you have to be very careful. You have to make sure you can trust if it's raw, because it has to be washed. One of the things they say is never eat a cantaloupe, because cantaloupe, the skin that's on there holds, and when you put a knife through it, you just put that through there's no way to keep it clean. So things like that. But otherwise, I've said, I've even visited people that were listed or about to be listed and said, do it. Trust me, do it. Mm-hmm. You're almost normal afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, so it works shockingly well. And they know so much more than they knew even 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
Wow.
I am thankful for that. So I'm thankful for organ donors.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I was an organ donor when I was 16. My mother, growing up in a tobacco field, mm-hmm. and my parents never went to college. And I had one uncle that went to college out of both sides of the family. Okay. But my mother, I remember she made a big deal out of organ transplant. She mm-hmm. said, this is going to be the future, and you're going to become an organ donor when you're old enough. So when I was 16, I did. And who knew? Yeah. So that's pretty insightful for living in a tobacco field.
Yeah. And that's something we definitely need to do as a society. Just, my son passed, I don't know if you knew that. My son passed away a couple of years ago. And bad time. I should have told you that before the interview. I'm sorry to throw it on your interview, but but fortunately he was a donor. So we've gotten different, notifications of people who've been blessed with donations from him and everything.
Well, in that situation, parents are trying to do something positive out of a horrible, horrible situation. Mm-hmm. But we have an opt-in system in the United States. So if you want to become a donor, you can. Mm-hmm. But some countries have the opt-out system. So you are automatically in unless you opt out. Yeah. Which I think is great. And you can opt out for any reason. You don't have to give a reason. Just say, I don't want to be an organ donor. Mm-hmm. But I think for a lot of people who aren't that aware of it, it's helpful.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's keep it moving. So what do you make correlations? You either for yourself or with your students, between teaching and practice and just overall physical wellness and things. That's really what we're the kind of the goal of the whole series.
Right. Well, I saw that you are about bodybuilding. It's sort of been my observation, more so with myself, but now I see it so much more with students, mm-hmm. and just in general. And we do have a wonderful program now. We just started last year at CCM. Mm-hmm. It started at Georgetown School of Medicine, and I believe UC was the first university to pick it up. And it's a wellness program directed to students. And I see your bodybuilder. We've seen a lot of in music, people learn from athletes. Mm-hmm. But I think it has to do with a headspace and so forth. But I think in bodybuilding for you and for a lot of people, it's actually a wellness type of thing. Mm-hmm. And mentally, my mentor said to me years ago, and I've said this to new students coming in the door, especially students who are tackling a big problem like focal dystonia or Valsalva or something that come in the door. So I asked, are you married? If they're married, I say, yeah, okay, great. Then while you're here, I want you to become a better husband. If you're enrolled in school, I want you to be a better student. Yeah. Or a better parent, a better sibling, or a better son, a better friend. Mm-hmm. Be organized, be a better business person, be better. You have to clean up your life, improve your life if you're going to improve as a trombone player. And I really think that's the truth. Yeah. And and people who correlate it with bodybuilding and so forth, I think it's a way, you're improving yourself. Mm-hmm. And they really all go together, mm-hmm. So I think it's important. I think we're under serving students as well as the regular population, the gen pop, if you will, and not providing enough wellness. We have to be mentally and emotionally healthy and safe, mm-hmm. and comfortable to be in a good place for improvement. Yeah. I just think that's vitally important. And people who come in and students don't feel comfortable in a particular environment and stuff, how can you expect them to reach their fullest potential?
Right.
And but not even it's just but just in general, you know. And you're on like you are not currently a student technically enrolled, but you're a student of life. You're a student. You'll always be a student of music. If you know, that's the best thing about music is every day you realize how much you don't know, and you can get just, you know, you always have a reason to go get better. So anyway,
no, that's great.
I'm rambling.
I love how you put that, though. You know, that in this, I'm sorry, it's a holistic approach, you know, to life, which is going to make you a better musician.
Yeah.
And it may seem on the surface like common sense, but we, especially when we're young, we get so caught up in the, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. We don't think, I've got to take care of myself. I've got to eat. I've got to sleep well. I've got to, you know, have healthy relationships, you know.
And being progressive in one area of your life will spread through your whole life.
Right.
It's just habits. It's creating a way of living that I get better. I'll get better everywhere. And, you know, you can't be like, you know, terrible at everything and really good at one thing. You'd be better if you were better. Just a better person, you know.
Yeah.
Better up here.
Yeah. What kinds of exercises? So, you know, if you've got a student who's got to get in shape for a recital, or, you know, they haven't played in a while, what kinds of things do you work with them to make sure that someone, you know, is really in really good playing shape?
Well, I'm sure you've probably heard that expression, senior recital chops.
Yeah.
You ever heard that expression?
I've heard it. It's been a while, but yeah, I've heard it.
Yeah. I always think of life can auditions, anything and to do with playing. You can end up you're playing a solo at somewhere with a group or whatever. You can have senior recital chops. By that I mean you start practicing something so much that you can't play anything else, and your playing will deteriorate. So what you really want to do is walk out for a recital, audition, opportunity to play, and be the best player you've ever been. So. I studied with Mr. Adam, and I don't Mr. Bill Adam, in Indiana University, and I don't say that because I'm in any way a good reflection of him. He was an amazing man, but he helped me so much, and he helped me develop a routine, a playing routine that focuses on fundamentals and what's really important when you play, and. So I think now I think of it as therapy for the brass player. I give myself 30 minutes of good therapy every day on the trombone, and then everything goes better. So that is understanding the criteria. First off, it's the quality of tone trumps everything. Second off, you have to know how to blow the instrument. Right. And that is truly understanding what happens in terms of supporting the air. Then as far as recital, that type of endurance, don't ever play when you sound bad. You know, if you've ever had chop problems, you can look back, probably somewhere around that time, maybe oftentimes we're playing ensembles and we're playing too loud. Yeah. Having a great time. Yeah. And the next day things don't feel right or they don't buzz right. Right. If you never play with a bad sound, you'll never have chop problems.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Wow. As far as endurance goes, I think subscribing to that, and then you start a month out, you should have your recital ready. And then you should be able to run your recital if they are very close to it. Yeah. So.
Wow. Okay, that kind of takes care of the next question too. I was going to ask for like a nugget of wisdom. You can give us another one, but I mean that's wow. Yeah, wow. Did you have another nugget? I
don't know. I mean, because again, I always tell my students, well, this is just the theory I'm working under right now. So I'm not sure I know anything. I just. I do think I learn much from my students as you know, certainly they learn from me. Yeah. But you always say this is a communal thing anyway. Right. We have to form a community inside the trombone studio. Yeah. It has to be completely free of tension and we have to be good neighbors to one another and support each other, whether somebody in the studio is struggling with mental illness or whatever. We are a family. Yeah. Us. And we're all going to go forward together and see them helping each other. And it's like, well, you know, they're going to learn more out there than they're going to learn right here. So I think it's much more of a human experience anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you had a message to tell young people, because one of the things I also want to do with this series over time, and just with the presence of bodybuilding for brass players, is offer professors an opportunity to advertise their programs, if you will, just so that if someone's watching this, they can say, well, if I go to CCM, I know I'm going to study with Professor Anderson, and I think I'll have this kind of experience. So if you want to take a moment to just kind of share what, something for potential undergrads as well as potential grad students.
Yeah. At certain times in people's lives, certain things are important for their growth and development. I think about their undergraduate college years is really where they become focused on hopefully what they're passionate about, or they're figuring it out. And you need a good place to grow up, musically speaking. And one of the things about CCM, it's been the governor of Ohio determined it the #1 place in the state of Ohio for the arts. If you go there as a student, say if you're a trombonist, you will play in an orchestra. You will play in a wind ensemble. You will probably play an opera, maybe a ballet. You'll certainly hear those things and be exposed to those things. We have 2 jazz ensembles. You just get exposed to an awful lot of stuff. And I can't imagine being 18 and knowing exactly what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. But I can say, if you get exposed to a lot of the different things, it'll help you narrow it in a direction. You got to hone it to a fine edge there. So that's one of the things. It's a great place to grow up. You'll be exposed to so much stuff. So that's, my advertisement for CCM.
Well, that's great. That's great. All right. Well, thanks so much for being with us today, Tim. I really appreciate this. And I've appreciated, every interaction we've had. So thank you again. And for the audience, please, if this has been helpful, if you've got a question or whatever, leave us a question, comment, concern. Please, of course, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and also share this. I really hope people start to share this with folks who may benefit from it. So that all being said, until next time, thanks for checking out Bodybuilding for Brass Players.